missed it. But it is there. I've also been informed that it is terrible traffic for those of you that are using the Busega area code to Bulenga, or using the flyovers, the Kampala flyovers within there, and heading to Masaka Road, obviously. And so that traffic there is also cumbersome. For somewhat reason, smarter schools decided to phase their reopening dates throughout the week, spreading them throughout the week, because the route Bulenga, Mitiana Road and Masaka Road take in or have a lot of schools with big populations. So different parents are definitely making sure that within this week their children do report to school. Also, given the fact that nationwide there's been a slow return of pupils to school, it does make sense to the traffic jam that we're seeing all throughout the coast, which means that you must be able to plan accordingly. Now, speaking of planning, as the government, it always plans on how it's going to service its citizenry with effectiveness. And of course, we are in the planning season, which is known as the budgetary framework paper season. So different MDS have prepared their frameworks and they presented them to the different line ministries, onto the different committees to evaluate, review and plan for the next financial year 2024. Which begs our take note this morning: sustaining the gains in budget priorities. My name is Priscilla Regida Deloga, and thank you so much for still being with us here in Morning at NTV. Now, I do have my discussants who I would like to have introductions to before we get into the bed of the discussion. We do have John, who's with Slow Food Uganda, joined by Topista, who's also coming in from African Youth Development, and Stephen, that is also coming in from CES Bank, one of the observers of the budgetary process. So I will start with my immediate left. Good morning to you, Steve.
Good morning. It's good to be here. My first time in the studio here, so I'm excited. I'm from the civil society. I worked as an economist and a budget specialist, Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. We are a membership organization of about 100 organizations, so we try to look at the budget. Our work is actually to scrutinize the government budget, the national budget, see that it is inclusive, see that it is people-centered, and do a lot of advocacy.
Okay, all right. Dear Lady Topista.
Yes, good morning, our viewers. My name is Topista Kiza. I work with African Youth Development Link. It's a youth organization. We are also members of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and our role in there is to ensure that the national budget is inclusive of the priorities of the young people in this country. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, all right. John.
Yes, good morning, our esteemed viewers. My name is John Chiwagalo. I work with an organization called Slow Food Uganda, and I'm the head of programs. And Slow Food Uganda is an organization which is part of PERAM Uganda. PERAM is participatory ecological and use management, working to improve and also to improve the livelihoods of small-scale farmers, but also to improve the livelihoods of the communities. So our work is to ensure that we preserve biodiversity, educate people about food holistically, but also to ensure that we influence policies that ensure sustainable food systems.
Okay, all right. So in their three capacities, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is the budget for the next financial year, inclusive, people forward, and is it really improving the livelihoods of Ugandans? Now, speaking of Ugandans, Uganda's budget has focused a lot on driving industrialization and construction of infrastructure. The question is, has this been effective? Has it been value addition? Has it contributed to other sectors? Has it helped the young people? Has it been inclusive? Has it actually improved livelihood? And these three people are here to help me understand that question better and if there are answers to it. Now, speaking of answers, let me first throw all of you under the bus and give me a review of the current budget that we are running on in the current financial year. Is it actually answering these things in which you represent and advocate for? I'll start with you, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. So this current year's budget that is running, from our perspective, it has been participatory, the process itself. The civil society has been made part of it. We started from the local government budget consultation where we were part of it. And one of the biggest aim, or what we have been advocating for, is that the common person be part of the budget. We have been saying let everyone be part of the budget. We've seen government, Ministry of Finance giving us space for us to talk about it. Last week we organized our pre-budget dialogue for the next coming financial year 2024-2025. And we've seen so many engagements. If you look at our media platforms, people have been engaging. So for us, that's a success. If everyone is talking about the budget, that is what we want to do. So far so good, and we've done a lot of advocacy. We've seen from the NVFP, some of our budget proposals have been taken up, and so we keep pushing and see how it goes.
Okay, why is it important for the citizenry to be as engaged in this process?
It's for them to hold the duty bearers accountable. If you don't know the budget, for example, then you will not know that, oh, this amount of money, for example, 1.8 trillion is going to be allocated for agro-industrialization, which part of it is buying inputs, buying seeds for the farmers. So if the farmers or the local people doesn't know that this money is there, then they will not hold the duty bearers accountable. That's why when we do our analysis, we find that there is gap. Seeds were supposed to be distributed. It is not distributed, and no one is complaining about it, just because the people supposed to get these seeds or these inputs doesn't know that the money was allocated. So our aim is that everyone gets to know where the money is going. And that's what we have been doing from our analysis, to where is the money going. If it's for the youth, which money is targeting the youth? Is it under PDM? Is it under Myoga? Is it under Youth Livelihood Program? If the money is there, we tell the youth that, by the way, 200 billion has been allocated for microfinance support center for the small-scale businesses. Please go and look for that money. That's the aim of what we're doing.
Okay, Topista, on behalf of the young people, analysis of the current financial year running, has it really been that inclusive to have the young people well catered to?
So looking at the current running budget, I remember that young people did participate, but not so much as such. They did participate, and in there we saw some priorities that would really work out for the young people of this country. But then the challenge that we find along the implementation of the budget is that there are a lot of loopholes through which monies, keeps getting lost, and that is a very big concern for the young people of this country. For example, if you look at the supplementary budgets that came in this year, those were kind of like a diversion, creating a diversion of what it is that we intended to achieve with the budget. And for us, we feel that for the young people who form the majority of this country are the ones that get affected if the budget for the key sectors where they are is affected, including agro-industrialization. And then also the other thing is around the PDM. Yeah, so the PDM came in as something that is going to drive Uganda's economy, and we anticipated that definitely we'll have young people do benefit from the parish development model. But it has also had some challenges, especially for the young people. I interact with a lot of young people, especially up country, and most of them, for those that did not have national identification cards, they could not access the fund because that is a prerequisite, and you know how cumbersome the process is for one to be able to get a national ID. So given that there is going to be mass enrollment, hopefully this time around, young people will be in position to get their national IDs, because most of them, by the time we registered for national IDs, there are those who had not made 18 years, so they did not have. So by this period of time, they were 18 already. And then also the other thing is that we know that we have a lot of young people who drop out of school, the teen mothers and the likes. So for most of them, they are out there in the economy. They are not in education. So you would think that the budget would support those areas where some of those young people who dropped out of school, who are victims of teenage pregnancies, are able to be captured into the available government programs. But it is unfortunate that one of the conditions is that you should have a national ID, and this young person dropped out of school. They are still young. They don't have that ID. They are not yet 18 years. But they could benefit from these programs and be able to contribute to the development of the country. So those are the challenges that we have as a country. And then the other thing, the fact that for most of our budget, if you look at how it is financed, is that for most of the sectors, they are externally, financed. So given the challenges that we've had as a country, so the budget has in a way been affected, given that some resources could not come through as anticipated, given the legislations that we made as a country. So that did affect us. So going forward is that we need to think through on how we invest in our people. How do we invest in the population? How do we invest in the people so that we are able to generate the resources that are required to fund our own budget as a country? And I am sure that if we are to achieve that, then we need to prioritize. We need to see where are the people, what is their situation like, and what do we need to do as government to ensure that the most of the people in this country are involved in the money economy. One of the things that informed, if you look at the budget framework paper that has informed this year's budget, Minister of Finance will tell you that there is a research that was done by the National Planning Authority, and that research is called NITSE. It talks about the young people that are not in education, not in any training, and not in employment, and that number is continuously growing. Imagine that huge number that is not in education, not in any training, and not in employment. So they are just there, hovering around. So you can imagine if we are not intentional in putting in place or having a budget that supports those key sectors that can provide opportunities for that particular group of young people, then we are going to be facing a lot of challenges as a country.
All right, Tom Pista, later on we'll be coming back to you to see how advisory that has been in regards to the planning for the next financial year. John, in your capacity, when you look at one of the things that have been very talked about into the present financial year, food security. Let's talk about that in reflection of this year's current running budget.
Yes, thank you, Priscilla. I would want to recognize the fact that agriculture is the backbone of our economy. But when you look at the prioritization of the agro-industrialization, is actually a little bit alarming. That even in the coming financial year, 2024-2025, you find that agro-industrialization budget has been cut by 178 billion. Which is a very big cut, because this, and as Theopista said, most of the budget which is in agro-industrialization is externally funded, with almost 1.4 trillion, which is expected from external funding. And this is something we are looking at as a threat to agricultural sector. But also when you look at other issues like the extension service delivery, which is currently having a ratio of 1 to 1,800 people, as opposed to 1 to 1,000 to 500 people, which means that an extension worker currently is working, is actually giving services to 1,800 people, and they are supposed to give services to only 500 people. So you can look at this situation and see that people are not getting the services in this regard, and of course the extension services are not well funded, that the extension workers don't have enough equipment for them to be enabled to deliver the services. And also when you look at the inputs, the agricultural inputs we have in the country, there is not so much clear regulations which are helping us to regulate these inputs which are coming into the country. For example, the seeds which farmers are buying from the shops, we don't see a lot of emphasis on how these inputs are regulated, and these are issues which are really affecting our communities. By that, at the end, a farmer can go and buy a certain input, or they can go and buy seeds, and they find themselves planting these seeds, and they are not really yielding at the end. And another key issue is on post-harvest handling and distribution, that you find that farming communities have not been well supported when it comes to post-harvest handling. Most of the crops, mostly the perishable crops, are being wasted because there are no incentives of value addition, and you find that most of the fruits, for example, in Soroti, where we recently established a factory of juice, that farmers they have been motivated to grow fruits, and according to the statistics right now, farmers harvest 5 million kilograms of oranges, but among the 5 million kilograms of oranges, only 3%, that is around 500 kilograms, is processed by that factory. And this is, I mean, where does this leave the farmers who really work in this kind of work? I mean, it's very important for the farmers to be motivated in a way that they can be able to get the market for their products, but also in a way that they can be able to add value on their products. And lastly, the storage is not really good in our farming communities, and also the handling process. That in most cases, when it comes to post-harvest handling, you find that a lot of farmers don't know the good practices of handling their food products. For example, when you move along the highways, for example, when you're going to Mubende, you can find a lot of farmers putting their maize on the highway, on the road, just to be sun-dried. And this one is a threat to our food safety, that this maize, which is always dried on the road, is contaminated, and at the end, it's the final consumer is going to be affected when they consume this kind of food. So these are some of the issues which we are actually seeing, and we want to see that the government at least help us to improve these issues, but also to reinstate the 178 billion which was cut from the agro-industrialization, because agriculture is the backbone and it employs about 64% of the people, and with this 64%, 72% are youth. So if we just let agriculture to be externally funded, and just in case, God forbid, the funders pull out, what would happen? What would happen to the 72% of young people who don't have any other jobs to do? So this is something we should look at. All
right, thank you so much. Of course, that gives you a spectrum into the opinions with the current running financial year's budget 2023-2024. Now we're going to be taking a bend. When we return, we're going to be focusing on some of those key areas that they have mentioned as we look forward into the next financial year's budget. Welcome back. We're still having on Tech Notes, sustaining the gains in budget priorities. Now, my guests have done a good job of analyzing the current financial year that we are in. Is it prioritizing the national development plans? Is it people forward? And is it improving the livelihoods of people? And is it actually inclusive of everyone? And of course, with some shortfalls here and there expectedly. One of the highlights having been the budget cuts, and these budget cuts having happened across different MDs affecting service delivery, effective service delivery to the last mile. Now it begs the question, into the next financial year, how do we alternate, correct and reprioritize some of these things? Now, one of the priorities for the president into the current 6th term he's running has been industrialization. We have seen that with the many industries he's opening across the country, and his continued advocacy for value addition kind of direction that we should be taking reshoring and industrialization is one of those directions that he's been very vocal about, and therefore, you know, the rest of us should fall in line, especially as far as funding that vision is concerned. Now, speaking of which, industrialization, let me turn to you, Stephen. In regards to industrialization, what is it, and what is its role in ensuring that we can have inclusivity and better livelihoods delivered to Ugandans at the end of the day?
Okay, thank you. Industrialization. I think as a country, we've looked at industrialization while focusing on agriculture. Much of our focus under industrialization has gone into agriculture under the agro-industrialization program. I'm saying this because if you look at the ministry in charge of industrialization, that is Ministry of Trade, Industrialization and Commerce, their budget has been consistently very low. And that's a problem, because I say it's a problem because if you look at where does our money come from in form of taxes, much of our money, around between 26 and above % of our taxes comes from the industrialization sector, the industries. They are the ones who pay that, and yet they also have the least budget. Now, coming to agro-industrialization, where most of the value addition is going to take place, the budget has also been cut, and it has reduced, just like he said, about 170 billion. So if the president is saying my target is to agro-industrialize, and because I know from industrialization, the creation of jobs is one of the fastest way of achieving the middle income status. It's one of the fastest way of development. But our current investment doesn't look towards achieving that. You look at the midterm assessment of NDP3, we are just barely achieved 17%. And now we are planning, this is the last year for NDP3, we are going to plan for NDP4. I've been thinking, and I keep telling my colleagues that, do we really need NDP4? Or we just change the name of NDP3 to NDP4, and then...
Shouldn't we have 100% success before we move on to the next level?
Well, it could be, maybe we need 75%. In terms of grading, that is already a distinction. So if we had achieved maybe 60%, we would say, okay, let's transition. But my take is, why don't we just look at what the recommendation from the midterm review, work on the recommendation and just change NDP3 to NDP4 without, again, all the money. And we are spending money. The process of developing NDP4, we are spending money on consultation and all that thing. Leaving that aside, for us to industrialize, or for the youth to work, he said about the new study from NPA saying that much of the youth are not anywhere. They're not in education, they're not in employment, they're just there. And that's a threat to the country in terms of feeding that population. You are seeing a lot of lawlessness coming in because they need to find a way to survive. So how are we going to tackle that? I'm also seeing, you see, I believe in a healthy population. If the population is healthy, then they can work. But we are seeing a lot of incidences of diseases coming in, people not working, the rate for cancer is going up, and that causes a lot of expenditure to the citizen. And we've also seen in the next year's proposed budget under the NBFP, the budget for health, I think it's also going to reduce. It's from 4.8 trillion to about 4.6. That is a gap of about 200 billion. That's a lot of money, but it's going to reduce. But also you're seeing a lot of expenditure in health. I'm sorry I'm taking you towards health, but I'm trying to look at if the population
which we have
is
to, because at the end of the day, the fundamental human rights do focus on food, health, education. Yeah,
food, health, education, and we're seeing that even education we're having challenges. And when I was listening to you before we came on air, you're talking about the crisis in the education sector, and you dissected it well. There is gap in the school fees, for example, is so high, and all those issues. So for us to think of industrialization, it's a good thing, but it has to go along with other sectors. Let the education be good, so that if the industry open up, there are people to work there. If the the people are healthy, then they can go into the gardens and do that. Or if the expenditure for health is reduced, if I know that if I go to the health facility, I'll find the things I need, but the cost is low, then that's a good thing. Yeah.
All right, a healthy population is a wealthy population. Turning to you, Taopista, in regards to that, he does bring out the fact that we cannot focus on one thing and negate the others, or reduce the same amount of focus and investment to the other sectors. And you had earlier talked about the NEETS research that had informed how non-inclusive or uncatered to the budget is currently for the young people. What were some of the recommendations after that research?
Yeah, so looking at that research that was done by the National Planning Authority, now the recommendation is definitely okay. So agro-industrialization is one of them, because there is this assumption that if we are investing in agro-industrialization or putting money into the agricultural value chain, then it can absorb some of those young people. But then the other recommendation is that we need to ensure that our bit vets are really functioning, so that these young people are skilled, and also that there are opportunities for apprenticeship within the SMEs. But now the challenges that the SMEs are finding in terms of absorbing this population of uneducated young people is that they would require a lot of time and resources to invest in training those young people, and they are also requesting that government gives them some kind of like support for them to be able to absorb that category of young people. And then the other thing is definitely, okay, the president has a skilling program for the young people, but definitely the challenge that we find with that program, that is skilling young people into basic skills. I think you've seen those different hubs across the country. But now the challenge is that there are a lot of young people who cannot benefit from that program, because they are those that are taking care of their families, and they need a daily income, so they cannot be off their small job. The
opportunity cost.
Yes, the opportunity cost, in a way. So we need, the country, I think, needs to look into that for that category of young people. How do you liberate them for that pressure providing, so that they can focus their strength on acquiring this skill, because they need it, but then they cannot leave something that is giving them an income. My recommendation on that would be that if we took advantage of these SMEs, where young people are trained on the job, so that they are earning something as they are learning a skill, that is one way that we can support this growing population of young people who are not in education, in employment, or anywhere. If you look at the statistics for this year, they are shocking in terms of the number of children that are enrolled for primary one versus those that sat for PLE exams. You will find that half of them are nowhere. So we are asking ourselves the question, where are they, and how are we planning for them? Because these are the youth that we are going to have in this country. So when Steve talks about, if we are talking about agro-industrialization and the creation of opportunities, then it's not just on its own. We need to look at all the other sectors that have to contribute to this kind of population, that will be able to generate the resources that will fund our budget as a country. Because if you look at our population dynamics, if you have over 78% of your population below the age of 35, then these are children and young people, and children are the majority here, because children form almost like 50%, and then youth are like 23%. But how are we investing in this population so that they are able to feed into the industries that we are creating as a country? And if you look at these industries, it is fine, they have established some industries, and those industries are employing some young people. So for those of you that move along Ginger Road evening, you'll see a lot of young people moving through those industries. But how much are they earning? Is it sustainable? Is it going to offer them an income to an extent that if they had a family, they will be able to take their children to school? So if we don't address those, then we will keep in that vicious cycle of poverty that is transferred from generation to generation. So we need to ensure that we use our budget to be able to transform the lives of the people in this country. And how we do that is that we need to invest in the young people. if you look at our budget, okay, the proposed budget now, like it has been, local governments are receiving very little money, and that is where most people are.
And that's where a lot of work is.
And that is where a lot of work is. So they are receiving very limited resources. Their infrastructure in terms of if people are to engage in agriculture, if they are transport their produce from their gardens to the market, the infrastructure, the roads are not that good. And if you look at the services that he really talked about, the extension services, because I work with the young people. For Up Country, we've supported some young people and to benefit from some of the government programs, like those that benefited from the Youth Livelihood Fund, and those that are able to generate some little capital from amongst themselves to start up something. They have been frustrated. Yeah, this year alone we registered a lot of young people who tried out, you know, poultry or rearing some animals, but you find the animal has died because they don't have some form of knowledge of, okay, if my goat is sick, then what do I do?
Yeah, at what stage does it need immunization?
How do I get to the vet officer at the district to be able to support me?
Yeah.
There are a lot of young people who want to get involved in agriculture, but now getting the right seeds, the input that he talks about. We've seen young people be frustrated by the seeds that they are growing. And then we've seen a lot of them who tried, like for example, let me give an example of COVID. So during post-COVID, we went back to the communities and asked what young people were doing around us, and there were a lot of them that got involved in agriculture, but most of their produce was rotting. They don't have where to store it, and then the prices were really very, very low. So my recommendation to towards the Ministry of Finance and our government is that we need to refocus ourselves. What I know about Ugandans is that they want to work, they want to earn an income. So if they want to earn an income, can we focus on ensuring that we are able to secure markets for the people? If we secure markets, I'm telling you, where there is money, people will find all ways to ensure they get that money. So let's ensure that there are markets that are really known. I always ask myself a question: why is it that many Ugandans are going to the Middle East? Where are they getting the investment they put in, around the 4 million, the 1 million that they put in? It is because they are assured, if I get there, I will be assured I will earn a 1 million as a person. So if Ugandans get to know that there is an opportunity for me to make money here, they will do all it takes to ensure that they invest in themselves and be able to get that money.
Well, John, that's a big task. Some assurances here and there, some assurances in food storage, some assurances in post-harvest handling practices, but all of this is a tough one to chew on, and the government cannot meet it all at once. But then at the end of the day, you know, agro-industrialization being a center now for the budget, you get to look at the power it has to transform our nation economically. Let's talk about that power.
Yeah, basically, I think it's very important for the government to prioritize the domestic funding, that we have to make sure that at least 75% of the funding comes from domestic revenue, so that we don't prioritize the external funding just in case we find problems with the external funders. This is something we have to really prioritize when we look at this situation. And secondly, it would be good for the government to reinstate the 170 billion which was cut from the budget of agro-industrialization. This will help us to support the farmers, but also the youths who are actually being affected in agriculture, that they will get more, more support from the government, but also they will be able to be facilitated in terms of capacity enhancement, in terms of market research, and all that. So this is also very important. And I also think that we can also have our MPs tasking my youth to actually approve the second national agriculture extension service strategy. This strategy was is under MAIF, and it's actually not really put into consideration as of now. So it would be good for the Parliament to task them to work on this, and this will help us to improve the extension service, but also it will help our farmers to ensure that they access extension services from the right extension service providers, because if the farmers don't access these services, at the end they are the most vulnerable ones. They are going to be mostly affected because they just do whatever they want to do. She has given an example that most of the animals can die just because farmers don't have that knowledge from the veterinary officers to support them taking care of these animals. And these are issues which we really need to work on if we are to improve, if we are to transform the agriculture sector through agricultural industrialization.
Okay.
If I may add on what you said, issues of agro-industrialization and prioritizing it is key. I still believe we do some production. We actually don't do a lot of production. And the government needs to prioritize. I think we need to start prioritizing large-scale production. If we are saying we are doing maize, let's do it in large scale. We still have land. It's all within Kampala, Wakiso, and where we don't have land. But just drive out of Kampala for 50 kilometers.
Of which, even the little land that we have in the areas you've mentioned can still be utilized with the new technologies of farming that are existing.
So, I still believe in increasing our production. But then, how do we make sure that what we have produced meets the standard? There's market there. Even locally, we have not yet satisfied the local market. But then, the gap is linking the farmer and then the market. And government has been trying to work on that. Some road construction here, it's the feeder road that are having some challenges. And if the local government can be supported, we've monitored a lot of projects, and you go to a local government, they have put a facility there, then they say that facility is for MAIF. They will not supervise it. And the facilities there, all the structures are in the local government, the planning, the health, the engineer, they have everything there, but they're not monitoring it. They're saying that it's for central government, we're not doing it, and yet we are running the same country. So, and that kind of chain of command needs to be fixed. Going back to how do we improve the quality, if we've noticed that most of, for example, our maize has been rejected in Kenya at some point because it wasn't meeting the quality. This stems from the approval process. We've seen the Uganda Registration Service Bureau and then the quality regulator, Uganda what's the quality regulator?
UNBS.
UNBS. The funding has been quite so low, and then we're saying, okay, if you look at some of our position paper we presented to Parliament, we're saying, can we systematically increase the funding for UNBS so that they are able to regulate it, so that when we go to sell our thing outside the market, it's accepted. And that's what we are pushing for. So we have some capacity to produce. We are relying so much on nature. I think the nature has been good to us. Still, it's still good. Even if we don't do any irrigation, we still have food to eat. So can we capitalize on that and make sure that what we produce can easily be sold outside? Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back to the chain of the possibility of agro-industrialization. I think because of the external funding being the heavy funder for MAIF, the challenge then is that they are open to the private sector also being a bigger player in the agriculture sector and influencing a lot of things, and that's why we're having poor standards of produce, poor standards of the complementaries to the agriculture sector, because people are concocting. No one is ready to supervise. The supervisor is underfunded, and so you can't blame the farmer who is trying to be a part of this process and to tap into these opportunities and get the seed from wherever it is they get it. It's not their job to sit down and then find out the quality of the seed. Is it up to the standards of the ministry? But they do their job and they do the planting, and then they expect that they will harvest, and the good weather will enable them to have the good harvest, and then it reaches the storage. That's another story. And so when Stephen mentions that we should be able to link farmers to markets, that's a possibility. In East Africa, we have a very big market. So you do have so many commerce and others on which we can tap into. But you do have that chain there. If it's not taken care of from the grassroots, then what's the point of the markets? Because the markets are still going to reject your maize and say it's not up to our standard because of that mismanagement or no lack of supervision from stage one. So how do we remedy that? Because the potential is there. I mean, we speak about it in our national anthem, but what is the ground solution that we can start with in order to then save up the rest of the chain of agriculture industrialization?
Yeah, basically, as I said, farmers actually being affected in the communities where they stay, that they don't get services they have to get. It's very important for our government to support farmers, support farmers by putting incentives which help these farmers to preserve their produce in a way that it is safe, but also to make sure that these farmers have proper post-harvest handling techniques. If we just leave our farmers to harvest their maize, for example, and they just sun dry it on the roadside or on the ground without anything like tapping, at the end it's going to be rejected. But if these farmers are trained, if they are given information, if they use these platforms like media and they train farmers, they give like information to farmers that if you sun dry your maize on the ground, it's going to be contaminated. It will not be accepted in the market. They will get the point, and of course they will do the right thing. Again, we need also to use our agriculture officers to enforce the standards. Yes, there are some farmers who are generally stubborn, but for them they don't want to use those right standards when it comes to post-harvest handling. But if we have agriculture officers who always monitor household per household to ensure that these produce which have been harvested are kept in a proper way, at the end it will help us to sustain the market or to gain the market for our products. When you look at products like coffee, a lot of coffee is being exported from Uganda, but there are people who are complaining about most of the coffee we export because of the quality of it. But when it comes to the coffee itself, it's the best. I mean, in the world, Uganda has the best coffee. I mean, so if we just have our best coffee being exported in a way that it is not reaching that quality, it is going to compromise our market. So it's very good to put capacity building incentives for the smallholder farmers, but also to engage these farmers into discussions. In most cases, when these leaders or our policymakers, when they are discussing these issues, they sit in office and start discussing issues and think for the farmers, which is really not good.
So it's not people forward.
Yes, it's very good to go to the farmers. You get to know why farmers are sun drying maize on the roadside. Maybe they will tell you, okay, Tamaka Road is already very hot and the maize dries very fast. Maybe they give you that point and you educate them why it's not good for it to be done like that. Secondly, you find that most of the people use synthetic chemicals to preserve these food products. Now people are putting, there are some chemicals which are put in beans, maize, for them to fast dry. They actually go on to spray the produce in the garden for it to first dry from the garden, and then it is given out to the people to consume. At the end, this compromises the market but also affects our consumers who eat these products.
Wow. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. Topi, so let's have your reaction to that.
If I'm to add something to what he says, if we are really to get something out of agro-industrialization, I think cooperatives can be a game changer for this country. So if we invested in ensuring that cooperatives really function, because these cooperatives are within the communities where people are, these cooperatives can advise farmers on the right inputs, the right seeds, and how to go about the process, and also support them in the storage. So if we recapitalize the cooperatives to function the way they used to function, I think we can go a long way in trying to support farmers, as we also as government also tries to regulate, like, why do we have bad seeds on the market? Why do we have them in there? What he talked about in terms of there is
why
no
is it
regulation.
accepting that?
Why is it there? Because this farmer will go to a shop that is just nearest to them to buy seeds. So if government is able to regulate that and ensure that we have the right quality of seedling, and that people are able to access extension services, for which if government does not have enough of them, through cooperatives people can be supported and be guided. That can help. Then the other thing that we need to invest in, that government has talked about but yet to be actualized, is around supporting small-scale irrigation. So small-scale irrigation will ensure that people are able to produce throughout the year, and they are not dependent on nature or seasons. Yeah, but now the challenge comes with that is yet to be actualized. But what I know is that they are telling people that people are going to put in some monies. And for the district where I work, I was interacting with young people, the youth, and they were telling me they have told them that they have to invest 2 million if they are to benefit from that program. And for most of these young people or people in the local governments or the districts, they are really poor, they are broke. They cannot raise the 2 million for them to be able to benefit from that small-scale irrigation scheme. So that takes me back to the emphasis is of if people are organized into cooperatives, then it can be easy through a cooperative for people to be able to secure such services.
I guess at the end of the day, privatization did us more harm than good, because these systems were there, they were functional, and they were benefiting from grassroots all the way to national level. Stephen, I'm going to give you the closing remarks, as of course you gave your additionals. I also want you to speak into some of the recommendations, CS-BAG, that you have put out for government in regards to the next financial year's planning.
So thank you. Just to highlight quickly on what you said, I think the best way to promote agro-industrialization is guaranteed market for the farmer. And guaranteed market and price. If the government put up a scheme and said we are going to buy all the maize that comes up, if it meets this criteria, say I want this maize, and they give a criteria, minimal criteria that allows the acceptable standard, and tell them, if you produce your maize, you can take it there. We have a dryer there. As long as you pick it from the garden, bring it here. We shall buy it at 1,000 a kg. And then people will do it. Trust me. If a farmer is assured that if my maize meet this standard and I take it there, I'll get 1K, they will work hard and make sure that their maize meets that standard. I think we are still a long way to go, but that's not. In terms of the next year's budget, what have we proposed? We've noticed that there's a lot of spending here and there, and I'm glad to share some of the analysis if you checked. We want government to repurpose. We don't have the money coming in, so the budget is literally the same this year. The next year is the same as this year, a gap of about 14 billion. That is the only gap. So we are saying, let the government repurpose, pick money from areas which we can forego for now and get. For example, we are seeing a lot of billions going into donations. Okay, our government donating, we can say, oh, this year let the government doesn't donate, we'll save about 200 billion. If the government doesn't donate, or if it's donating, let's donate half of that. So that repurposing we've been trying. Another one is, let's stop unnecessary expenditure. We are seeing our debt burden rising. Let's stop borrowing unnecessarily. Let's stop spending. For example, we have we've been saying that we have so many celebrations. Women's Day, Independence Day. During COVID, we were doing the thing online. And if you see the budget going into this, it's a lot of money. So we are saying, can we repurpose this?
Oh, wait, Stephen, until you're the president, then you see if you can still make that very same statement. When you have to celebrate days like Liberation Day, you know, Terehesita, that was just yesterday. But we do hear your comments. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But of course, you know, through CS Park, you can be able to get the other recommendations that have been shared with Gambit in order to have that physical policy is something that the president has been really advocating for equally post COVID-19. And now the bigger task is, how do we still work within the same, you know, tax base? Because at the end of the day, the tax base is still narrow, and yet we want to milk a lot from a very thin cow, and then it's affecting what discussion that we've been having here on the push for agro-industrialization in bettering the livelihoods of Ugandans and making sure that it's people forward. Well, I trust that you have picked your 2 cents and pick that up and use it accordingly. For now, we end this conversation. We take a short breather and we'll be back.